So right now we will test what we have just seen in the slides by writing this simple application. Actually, it's already written in order to speed up things, and you can find its source code on the website. Okay, so what does this application do? Well, the application allows you to add a number of students and enter their marks as well. Okay, whenever you hit the read mark button, you will enter student name and student mark. You press the max mark, it will get you the maximum mark, min mark to get the minimum mark, AVG to get the average. So first just test it, and then we'll see the code. Okay, right now read mark, let's say Smith, and this assume is about a 90, as we can see here. Read another mark, let's say John, let's say got 40, and another one is Michael, let's assume we got 65. Okay, so here we see the marks. Now press maximum mark and see Smith has the maximum mark, as we can see here. We got a 90. Okay, minimum mark, and student John got the minimum mark. This is John. Finally, the average is 65. Okay, and actually, if we read another one, for example, Todd, let's assume he got 88. Okay, and the calculation will be updated, as we can see here. Okay, so this is how the application works. Let's dig into the code and see how we did it. Okay, so right now this is the code. Here we define two arrays. Okay, actually this one should be an integer array. Okay, no problem. The first array is of string because we are storing name. The second one should be of integer data type. Okay, in order to store the marks. Okay, the SD count is a variable, and it's used to tell us how many elements in the array are we using. Okay, we don't know how many student marks we are entering. Let's say we have 1,000. Okay, or let's say we have 3. Okay, so instead of writing all these possibilities, we will just use this variable to make us remember how many elements we are using from our array. Now let's see how it works. First, when the application starts, since this is outside any block, it will be executed first when the application starts. So SD count is 0 by default. Now this is what happens. SD count points to position 0, which means it's pointing to the first empty slot in the array. And so when we enter the name of the student, the name will be stored in here. Then we enter the mark, it will be stored in the first empty mark slot. Okay. After that, we are using this statement, which allows us to add the name and the marks for the name and the mark for this for the student we just entered. You can see here we use the last index because we use SD count because SD count will always point to the last empty slot. Okay. After that, we will increase SD count because we want it to point to the next spot, and also it's telling us how many elements we are using. So after entering the first information for the first person, and by filling the slot number 0, it will start. It will have the value of 1, which means we are using 1 slot. And in the next execution cycle, we will be filling the slot number 1. Okay, and will tell us that we are in this execution we are using 2 slots, and so on. Now, the part where we are computing the maximum value, here this one will, the I will be used as a loop counter. Maximum position, it will be used to point to the index, or to remember the index that had the maximum mark. we always assume when we have maximum, minimum, we always assume that the first element is the maximum or minimum element here. So the position 0 or the student with the slot 0 is having the maximum mark. Then we will start checking from 1 to st count minus 1. We are checking from students slot 1 ending with st count minus 1. Since we are starting with position 0, so st count will always we are using st count minus 1. Okay, if we are using 3 slots, then the last slot will be marks of 2. Marks of 0 is the first one, marks of 1 is the second, and marks of 2 is the third. S2 will be computing a 3, which will add an extra element in this case. So this is why we need to include the minus 1. Okay. Now we will check if the mark if the mark of any other students is greater than the mark we are assuming it is the maximum. If so, then we must update our index to point to the one we have just found. The minimum is pretty much the same. Okay, now let's go to the average, the last part. Here the AVG will be used to find the sum of all the marks. We start by putting value 0 in it. We will loop over all the marks and we will add each one to the sum of the previous ones. So first AVG 0 will add the first one. The second mark, which is at place 1 or index 1, will be added to the mark 0. And mark 2 will be added to the summation of mark 0 and 1, and so on. Finally, we'll divide this by the total number of marks and display a message. Okay, so this is basically how you work with arrays. It's very simple and it's very convenient to work with them. Okay, if you need to download the source code, you can find it in the website. If you have any notes or any questions, I'll be happy to receive them, and I'll be happy to answer your emails. So check out the tutorial on the website www.ak-self.com. Go to the tutorial section, and hope you'll find this useful. Okay, don't forget to subscribe and rate.